What's up, everybody? It's JD Shabazz here again. Man, how's everybody doing? You know, but I want to get right into it. So, I've been thinking. So, what is the word Hebrew? I always like to start off my topics with saying, "What is?" So let's examine it. What is the word Hebrew? Because we have been under the impression that Hebrew, is a religion or a certain people, and we've been believing this for years, even myself, and if it is, that's fine, I'm not, trying to fight it if it is, but after doing some studying it, again, and watching these movies, and these documentaries, and after watching the documentaries, doing my own research, with it, I'm seeing for myself that, okay, all this stuff means something there, So let's get into it. Let's get into the origin of this, of this word and the meaning of the word Hebrew, because before it was Hebrew, it was known in the ancient text in Africa. The word was known as Ibri. And you have to understand it. Before we even get into that, I just want to put that out as a footnote, But before we get into that, we have to dig deep just so you can understand, what this stuff means here, because all this stuff has meaning to it. But before you can understand that and for it to have significance for you, you have to understand where this stuff comes from, okay? So, back in Africa, what is known as Africa, because it was a different name before that, because Africa is known after a conqueror known as Africanus, so I'm just using the word Africa, just so you can understand it. But in ancient Kemet and in the Nile River, they had laws, and they had these certain laws that they called the 42 admonitions of Mahat. And Mahat is spelled M-A-A-T, Mahat. So, and Mahat is depicted as a beautiful Nubian sister with falcon wings and one single ostrich feather on her head, on top of her head, and that ostrich feather means something, because in the ancient times, it was very important that they studied nature, because they felt that nature, and all things that were absolutely natural had natural, and they had godly defined elements to it, so they studied a lot of nature, and they studied animals, they studied the minerals, they studied the plants, they studied the animals, they studied humans, and from there they was able to permeate into something more spiritual, so this stuff gets deep, but you got to understand again that there was a certain philosophy that they followed, when they was following Mahat, but again, I do wanted to specify that ostrich feather that was on top of her head means something, because when you study the ostrich, and you see the wings of that ostrich, when you ball up, the wings of an ostrich, those wings spring back in perfect symmetry. And that meant, in that time, that meant perfection. And so she meant perfection. And perfection doesn't mean that you had to be perfect, a perfect person. That just means, in Mahat, there were certain virtues that they were trying to follow to keep everybody as a righteous, citizen in that time. and they wrote these 42 admonitions on the stelas, and all around the towns, that they had, all the 42 cities and towns that they had, and that they controlled. They all followed these laws there. And I'm just going to give you a quick reference of what I'm talking about. I'm going to walk over here real quick just so you can see it, because I got it right on my wall here. And bear with me here. Hold on, because I'm just going to walk you over here just so you can see this. Hold on, it's right here. Let me cut my light on. And I look at this every day, just so you can see. And it means something. But this is kind of what it was. Back in the old days, there it was a little different there. But this is giving you an example of what the 42 ideas of Mahat, stand for. And it has a lot of peaceful laws that they followed, And one of those laws back in that day was that they did not enslave people. No one would be enslaved. Anyone that came in, anyone that followed these laws there, anybody that was a human being, would never be enslaved with anybody that followed Mahat. But you have to understand with Mahat and with the human nature and with nature, in the totality of nature, it can't just have just one way of being. You can't just always just be perfect, or you can't always just be righteous. There always have to be another side to righteousness, just like there's another side to nature. Not everything can be peaceful and be prey. There has to be a predator out there, that has to balance the order that exists, not only in your mind, but in reality, So with Mahat, they have what is known as Isfet. And Isfet is the road you're on when you're not righteous. So righteous and Mahat represents harmony, balance, order, and reciprocity. And the word reciprocity represents, basically means that you're not, you're going to do some things that's wrong there. But as long as you could submit, and atone for what you've done, and not just say that you're sorry for what you've done, but correct what you've done and try to do your best to never let it happen again. That's what reciprocity is. And that's what you really want to strive to be. When you say that you're sorry about something, that's what you want to be able to show, so somebody can be able to trust you again. You want to show somebody that your word is your bond there. And that's what reciprocity really represents. And this stuff meant something, to the people in that ancient time there that lived in the Nile River, that resided right there between Egypt and what is known as Africa. The Nile River, that was a beautiful, important area, because they was really deep in trying to break down the structure of what we use now as a zodiac, and what we use now even when it comes to all these contemporary dogma, religions that we follow now. All this stuff breaks down from what they were doing in this area here right now and what they were trying to follow. And I'm going to get into it a little bit later. And I'm just going to give you a footnote that it's all about the Assyrian drama. That's where all this stuff kind of breaks down into. But we ain't going to get into that right now. We're going to stay with the topic right now, when it comes to Mahat. It's going to take me a little bit of time to kind of break it all the way down, because it's just so deep, because again, I was talking about the Ibri, and those who crossed over into the shores and the waters of Africa, what is referred to as Africa and the Nile, And again, all the people that lived in that area all followed Mahat. And that's very important, because again, with Mahat, they didn't believe in enslaving anyone. So, there was an ice age, you know, that happened. I believe it was in around 1650 BC. The ice age happened, you know, and there was a major famine that happened, and you know, people were going against their, you know, their rulership, you know, and they were kind of rebelling against everything that was going on there, and they've got together, and you know, they had to figure out some way to kind of get away from where they were because they were starving, you know. So they ended up stumbling into Africa, you know, and when the Africans noticed these people here, they've never seen them before, you know, never seen before. They were considering them, and they were calling them what we would call the new man, you know. They would refer to them, you know, in their words there. I don't know the text there, but they were the new man that they've never seen before. And they would call, again, them the Ibri. Again, I'll spell it again. The Ibri is Ibri. And that refers to those who crossed over into this water on the side of where Africa is now and where the Nile is. So those who crossed over into that water, those people on the African side of it referred to them as the Ibri. So with the Ibri in the modern text, that now translates into what is now known as Hebrew, you know, and that was their title in that time there, you know. So when they brought these people in from these shores there, they didn't want to capture them. They didn't want to slaughter them. So what they did was they brought them into the temples, and they started to teach these people Mahat, so they can understand it, so they can be able to follow these same virtues and same laws that they were following, so they can be able to be a real citizen of, you know, their districts, and they can be able to follow their laws there. And if they weren't able to follow their laws, then they would be, you know, in trouble from there, or whatever would happen to them from there. But they were taught, you know, all these different laws there and all these different things through Mahat there. And from there, they ended up coming back together there and going back where they came from with this new knowledge that they've learned from the ancient Kemetic, you know, people. All these laws that they, you know, and all this information they got from Mahat, they took all that information that they learned there, they took it back to where they came from, and they presented it to them. And from there, that's where they came up and established the 10 Commandments. And that was how they were able to bring, you know, people that were referred to as the people that were born in sin. You know, the people who weren't following this system of Mahat was referred to as the ones who were living in sin, because they had no virtues, again, you know, to what they were doing. So they were able to bring these people from what they've learned in Africa with the 42 admonitions of Mahat up from the state of a barbarian with these virtues. So again, they came up with the 10 Commandments. And with the 10 Commandments, they changed it a little bit. And they, you know, so with Mahat, it was more about, you know, when they was reciting, you know, what they were trying to say, you know, in Mahat was, it wasn't a commandment. It was more of something that they just understood, and it was just their natural way of being. So it was easy for them. And they would state it as, you know, I have not, you know, when they would say it. And so they would say, you know, it would, again, it was just a different way, you know. So they didn't have to be commanded to this, you know, to do anything there. They didn't have to be commanded because they already knew that they didn't have to kill anyone. They didn't want to kill anyone. And you can see that in our nature right now, that naturally we don't want to kill or hurt anyone. And we don't have to be told that because it's naturally in us. But these people that were living in sin, had to be commanded on what not to do, on how not to steal and how not to kill and how not to, do whatever they were doing. And but they all, they had to be commanded to do it, But all that stuff that when they come to the story of, of even Moses, and they tell that story, that's kind of deep when you think about it, when knowing all this information. And again, I was telling you that in Africa, the 42 admonitions was written on little stones. They would carve into it, and they called it a stela. You can look it up right now. Stella, stela. That's what they would call it, and they would write on these stones and on these rocks and these wedges there. They would carve into them, and they would reside these commandments to them. And they had it all over their cities, like billboards, and people, that's what they seen. So they seen it all the time. And this is just the way that they live. This is their way of being. So it was nothing for them to be able to live this way for them. And it was easy for them. And they treated people with respect and love. And they understand each other a lot more than how we do now. And it wasn't about trying to get over on anybody or get some money over on somebody there. People were happy to work together there because it was all about trying to better the nation and the people, not just yourselves there. We all wanted to survive in that time there. And it didn't have to have money because we all would help each other. If we were sick, we would go right to the doctor and they would help, If somebody wanted a house, everybody would come together and build the house for them. If anybody needed running water, they would go and get that water for them. Anybody got sick again or got hurt, everybody came together, But now everything kind of got corrupted, in this new way of being there. And things can be different, if we think about, some of the history on how things were done, in this old time. But again, with those laws, they took all those things there that they've learned there, and they took it back. Even people like Socrates, they came into Africa, into Kemet, and learned the commandments, not the commandments, but they learned the 42 admonitions of Mahat. They learned the same structure too. They learned how to, and again, in this time, these people understood things there because they studied the nature of things there. And they understood, again, these domains there that reside within our reality that we live in. There's domains that we live in. And we have to understand that if we can master these domains that we live amongst, we can gain mastery pretty much of the world there. And we can do anything with that, But you have to understand that there's the mineral domain. Then there's, again, the plant domain. And then there's the animal domain. And with the animal domain, from there's the human domain that you have to try to gain mastery and understand. And that's a deep one, Because there's a lot that comes into a human. And there's a lot that even comes into the animals, But again, if you can understand all of that, and that's a lot what these herbalists and these what they refer to now as witch doctors, but these doctors was doing. That's how they were able to heal the sick, by being able to understand these domains here. The minerals, there's things that you can be able to heal things with just with the minerals. There's things that you can heal people with and heal your body with just with the plants and the herbs that grow right there naturally. That's why I was saying before that everything that is natural has a godly essence to it, has something divine to it. So again, in these ancient times there, with what we refer to again as the Africans, they believed that everything that there were certain um, things that was natural. They would call them netures, and I'll get into that a little bit later on, because that's another deep one there that we can talk about, a whole nother topic that we can talk about, but let's stay on the topic here again. And I gotta say that, because there's so much again to cover, and I'm trying, but again, man, I love all y'all, man. And it's not about trying to shame anybody or make anybody feel bad about anything there, because we all can learn from this. And we've all been kind of tricked into to kind of stay in this box here and having to believe everything that they're saying, but we have to do our own research. We have to, and I understand, again, you have to do what you have to do, to survive. But man, it was so much more, to this world, and to our history that we can uncover and we can understand. And with that information, man, we can permeate into a future there that could be so much better than and to what we're going into now. Because we're going, it's beautiful, what we're going there. But man, again, with this information, we can make it so much better, and we can train and we can teach our youth, some of this information there that can empower them, that can make them stand up a little bit more tall, But again, with these virtues, that they established in this time there, it was so much they was able to cover with it, because again, with understanding those domains, you can almost heal and you can fix anything with that in your body there. Understanding the herbs, understanding what to eat, understanding what is good for your body and what can help your body in a time of need there. What can regulate your body when it comes to knowing how to regulate your blood pressure. Understanding eating a piece of celery every day. Just celery every day. If you eat celery every day, that alone can help lower your blood pressure. And it's just a natural, just a little vegetable that you can eat every day, But they don't tell you these things there, They want to have you stuck on pills there. But if you understand, again, nature, and you understand the plants, and you understand what these vegetables and all these fruits and this food, and what it does for you and your body, if you can understand that, man, you can live so much more healthy, But they understood these things there. And that's why, with all that knowledge, a lot of these people came here to gain and understand this knowledge there, Again, Socrates and a lot of these people that revered, in Greece and all of these other areas that came to power, they learned that knowledge, again, from someone else. They didn't just gain that knowledge by themselves there. But sometimes they don't want to give respect where respect is due, because they want to be the ones that's respected and revered, in what they done, But again, they had to learn that information somewhere, and they did. And they learned it from the ancient Kemetic people there that deserves a lot of respect, So I'm going to keep them alive there by explaining these things there. And there's a lot more to explain there, Because again, we're going to get into it, man. And I ain't going to hold back on none of this stuff there, because this stuff needs to be out there. And again, it ain't to hurt nobody's feelings, but it need to be known. I love y'all, man. Y'all take care.